So we have gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of momentum going as far as this craziness with HOAs and just how annoying it can be for people who live in them. But here's an interesting fact. 80% of the construction that is going on right now to get us the housing inventory that we need, 80% of the construction is designated in an HOA. So new houses are automatically being funneled into an HOA organization. And so if you're looking to buy and you're going to be buying a new home, you're 80% chance that you're going to be in an HOA.
Why do you think that is? Because in the 80s, 90s, it was just neighborhoods, not HOAs.
Right. So what's happened is that I think a lot of municipalities and cities have figured out, well, we don't want the burden of making sure people are following the rules. So if new construction's coming in, let them go ahead and deal with it and set it up as an HOA, and then they get to police and monitor and set the rules, and then we just are like in the background not really having to deal with it.
Yeah. So did you know that HOAs became in existence for covering the cost of retention ponds?
Initially, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. And I know you have had some experience with this too.
Yeah.
I mean, there are nightmare stories that are taking place right now where people's personal property rights are being violated. And I mean, I don't dictate what a client is looking for, but a lot of times, if they're saying, well, I really don't want to be in an HOA, okay. But then as we get looking at houses, that might be their only option, right? Mm-hmm. Because they want a newer construction. Maybe they want some of the amenities that come along with it. Well, the worst thing to do is to get somebody into a house and then they find out it's a nightmare situation.
But I feel like 99% of HOA and condo problems are because the new buyer didn't read the rules, didn't read the bylaws, didn't read the guidelines, and then just don't know.
And so that's why part of that critical part of what we do when we write the contract is that there is a whole section that is dedicated to HOA covenants and restrictions, the financial statements, all the information that you really need, that we have a time period that we want to get that information so that the buyer has the opportunity to review that. Obviously, we have multiple communities and probably hundreds of HOAs in our area.
Yeah.
So I don't know all the ins and outs of it. So you have to really pay attention to that.
But I feel like those should be automatic with the listing.
It should be automatic with the listing, but here's the problem. Most HOAs are charging for those documents. So unless you are the original owner and you got handed these documents when you closed on it, okay, now this person who built a home is getting those documents when they close on it. So think about that, not getting it up front. Now, did they keep it? Has there been any material changes? And do they pass that on to the next person?
Well, if they came in when it was being built, it may not have been a community-controlled HOA at the time.
Not at the time.
The builder or developer would have controlled
Correct.
it until, what is it, 75%?
Yeah.
Goes to the community.
And so that's the little bit of a delay, right? Because I've had a number recently of original owners and they were like, oh, I don't have any paper. So don't have it, it's not updated, you're not really sure, but the HOA is charging for those documents. And that is $100 or $150. And guess what? They're requiring 21 days advance notice as the HOA to say we have that advance notice to know that you want a copy of it, or else we're going to charge you an additional rush fee. So if you're paying $150 for it and you get that notice to them day 22 before you close, which is probably pretty close to just after getting through inspection period or writing the contract,
Yeah.
then maybe you don't have to pay the extra fee. But if it's less than that, they're going to charge you an additional fee, which is just ridiculous. Like, it's a touch of a button. Send the documents, upload them on your website, do something where that information is easily accessible.
Yeah.
And people can go there to refer to it. Because if I was looking for myself, I would want to go to the website for that HOA or for that community and see what information is there. I mean, it's not unrealistic to think that shouldn't be available, right? What's so
Not
particular?
to mention, you have a board who has control over this pot of money, and there could be somebody who is redecorating the clubhouse with things from Pottery Barn and Restoration Hardware and spending a couple $100 on a vase. When do you really think that the community members would want that money spent that way? And then because all of that money was spent redecorating the clubhouse, guess what? Bam, you have a special assessment. Everybody has to pay thousands of dollars because the entry wall that says, the community's name is falling down and needs rebricked.
Not a sore subject at all, huh?
No, I mean, this is not a personal experience. This is just kind of an example of multiple scenarios when I used to do condo and HOA management.
Right. And again, I know that a lot of buyers will cursory. They want to know, well, can I build a fence? Can I do this? What's the requirement here? And so
good documents will lay all that out. It'll say you can only have a wooden fence that's only 4 feet tall, or you can't put in a pool. There are some HOAs around here that have that restriction. And then any improvements need to be okayed by the board.
Prior to,
Yeah.
And those are the things that people high review, look at these documents. On the backside, from our perspective is that, hey, you want to dive into the financial aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Because you do need to see, is it spending the money? Does it have money in reserves? Is there already a special project fund for like the paving or sidewalks or roofs? If there's common area, is there money already allocated for that? Or is that going to be something, as you said, that you get hit with a special assessment day 33 once you're living there, which then it's like, well, heck, I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, and some of them aren't set up like traditional HOAs or condos. You could have individual homes that are set up as an HOA, but the HOA does all of the landscaping and cutting the grass and whatever. So you have an higher monthly amount than somebody who the HOA literally only pays for the retention pond, and that
it's minimal once
is
a year,
$100 a year instead of $100 a month.
Right. And so a lot of times when buyers are looking, they're saying, well, if there's an HOA and it's X amount, then I can probably deal with that. Well, that doesn't mean that that's going to be X amount moving forward, or that there isn't an increase that's coming, or the special assessment. So now we're seeing where there are layers of charges that are starting to impact our people in these communities. And then the other thing I found really interesting, listening to an attorney who deals with these HOA battles throughout the country, is that condo associations are different than HOAs on single-family homes. So condos typically have less rights as a voting party versus those that are in households in single families. So I think that's kind of interesting that, there is a distinction there. So it's very important if you're looking.
It's usually defined in the documents. Right. So condos, they'll take like the 100%, and then you have 1.3 because you have a smaller one, and this person has 3.4 because
more
they
size.
have a bigger size of the building or of the property.
Yeah.
Where HOAs are usually just everybody gets a vote.
Yeah. And the other thing is when they hold those meetings where these decisions may be voted on,
nobody shows up.
If
normally.
you don't have participants show up, then it's going to be based off of the number of people that are there.
Yeah,
which
but you
is
can
usually
also
your board.
send in. So if you're my neighbor and you're going and I can't go, I
Do
can
a proxy.
Yeah, I can send in my proxy and then you vote for me.
But this is
which
things
does
that
happen.
people don't learn until after the bad experience, right?
Yeah.
So if you aren't able to attend, give somebody else that you have confidence in that's going to represent at least your thoughts and ideas. Give that proxy vote to them. I have this in my office complex, and there were some major things that were going to be coming up for that annual discussion. And I'm like, man, I'm going. Give me your proxy because I need to have the voice. And, well, now I'm in it. So
Yeah.
now I'm on the board. You go and you start talking about it. And sometimes that's a good thing because now I can be a part of the solution, if not a part of the conversation for others. And more importantly, people come to me and talk to me about issues that they're having, and then I can bring it up at the board meeting. So I think that's a good perspective as well.
Yeah, and I think the board whether it's a condo or an HOA, is so vital to just the success, the financial success and the overall success. I know you hear the horror stories about the Karen that got on the board and she just walks up and down and she picks out people's issues and then sends them letters and whatever. And that can turn into like lawsuits between neighbors as well that the board will sometimes get involved in. There was a condo in this area that wasn't correctly funded. They ended up getting part of their building, like you couldn't use it. What is that called? Where
Abandoned. Condemned. Okay.
Yeah. So everybody got hit with a massive, and I'm talking like $20,000 assessment.
Oh, wow.
That it's paid now, or we're foreclosing on your house because you didn't pay it. It's not like, oh, I'll catch you when I get it. You know, it's when you have a condo or you have an HOA and that's part of it, that's another bill, just like your DP&L bill or what an AES now, you know.
And it becomes a lien if you don't pay it.
Yeah, and then you had people suing board members because they weren't able to sell their units because they decided not to adequately fund their reserves. They decided, you know, to let the amenities go, which was also a perk of being able to sell their unit. So you had these longtime home owners unable to sell their unit, and then it turns into a big legal battle.
It's not fun.
No.
But I do think, you know, communities are going to start seeing some of the pushback, obviously, because, again, when it starts infringing on property rights, that's where we've got a problem. Where, as realtors, we're going to make sure that we're advocating for people and the use of the property in a way that makes sense. You know, one example, now this is a township rule, so I'm battling with them over this, but very similar is this idea that if you have a forward-facing garage, the rules are different than if you have a side entry garage. And I'm standing here saying, wait a minute, that should not make a difference. It's still the driveway and it's facing the roadway here. It doesn't matter if the garage is on the side or in the front. The driveway access is still to the main road.
Yeah.
So why is this an issue? Why is there different rules?
What is the different rules?
So the different rule in this case is that you can't have a work trailer or a vehicle in your driveway. You have to do certain things if you're a forward-facing garage. But if I were a side entry garage, it wouldn't be a problem. So literally, if you're driving down, let's say you're driving down this street and you see a house after house after house, well, this one, oh, well, there's a trailer there, okay. Well, there's a trailer there, okay. The person driving down the road doesn't see a difference.
Yeah.
One happens to be a side entry garage and one is a forward facing. But the one that's forward facing is getting a violation notice. And the one who's side entry has been parked like that forever. And it's like, here's where the idea of Karen comes into issue, right? Is that somehow, some way, somebody decides they don't like what you're doing with your place. Mm-hmm. They don't like the fact that, well, you didn't cut it when we didn't have rain yesterday, and so today it looks like it's really long. Well, hell's bells, like, give me time to get this stuff cut, right? But they file a complaint. Well, our community then sends out their person to drive through and see, oh, okay, yep, I see. All right, yeah, it looks a little high. And a notice gets sent out. Now, that notice isn't received the next day. That notice could take, honestly, 7 days to get to you, even though it's mailed here where we live, right?
Yeah.
The mail service sucks. But we receive a notice 7 days after the fact, and the grass has been cut, and it's like, well, what the heck? Like, who's complaining? Mm-hmm. Why is there an issue? Like, it hasn't been a month. Thank you. May no-cut people who didn't want to cut their grass in May. That was a whole thing. But we didn't do that. Like, we were still systematically cutting our grass and everything. So I don't know who this individual is who's taking the time out of whatever they got going on in their life to file a formal complaint, to then make the city person come out or the community person come out and do this. And it's like, I'm sorry, I have other things going on. Like, I can see when I think something's not cool that somebody does in their yard, but I don't file the complaint.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like it's a little picky, you know, like the rule of your trash cans can only go out the evening before trash pickup, and they have to be taken back the day of pickup. Like, you can't leave them sit out there for the weekend.
Yeah.
What if my trash service is Friday morning and I'm leaving town Thursday night and I'm not going to be back until Monday evening? You're telling me, oh, Mr. Neighbor, would you mind getting my trash cans and taking them back so I don't get a violation? It seems so petty and so ridiculous. And in our case, what's happened is that this has just been compounded over time with everything that's going on and been going on to where now it's a sticking point. You can push me so far, and then I'm going to start standing on principle. And principle then becomes, what the hell? Like, why is this an issue when literally 3 doors down, 5 doors down, 6 doors down this way, everybody has trailers, 2 of which are also forward-facing garages, 1 of which is only a side garage. And when the township tries to explain this, it's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, this house I didn't build this house. I didn't get any documents when I moved in here. The citizen knew that this trailer is sitting in our driveway. So if it's been there for this long a time, I don't understand why now all of a sudden I'm having to jump through all these hoops and, potentially having to spend a lot of money to resolve this, because their quick, easy answer is just get the trailer out of here. Well, that doesn't serve the purpose. Like, that's my son's work vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, he uses that, and things are in there that he needs for the renovation that we're doing here on our house. And when he works a project, he takes it with him. Like, I don't understand why that's an issue. Like, why is that reasonable?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a sticking point. And that's where I think if an HOA or a Karen in an HOA or a neighbor that you piss off all of a sudden is going to start, well, I'm just going to file a complaint. How petty is that?
Yeah.
And why make it miserable? Like, let's all be friendly.
Yeah.
If I'm doing something to really bother you, okay, great. But if I'm not complaining about your dogs barking all the time and your kids running all over the place, why are you complaining about me minding my own business at my place?
Right. So there is a home in my neighborhood that decided they want to do like natural grass. And so it literally looks like a bunch of clovers all over their yard, like not normal grass where they're the only ones. So, and it's a new build. They've done it themselves. And finally, so we have like a Facebook page for our neighborhood. And finally somebody was like, what the hell? Like, it looks like it's a homeless house. Nobody lives there. Like, can we do something about it? And what ended up happening is the homeowners commented on that and was like, here's what we're trying to do, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, well, it looks like shit, so how about you fix it? And it turned into like, a 40 comment thread where everybody was like, basically fix it or just put normal grass down because we don't want to see your shit anymore.
Yeah.
And, I think if you talk to your neighbors, it resolves a lot of those.
Absolutely.
But people don't want to do that because they're chicken shit and they just want to go, oh, look at them over there. They're being bad and breaking the rules or whatever. Yeah. And then I guarantee you, if you confronted that person, they would be like,
oh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
There's a perfect example yesterday on Facebook. There was some drama and I was, looking at it. And it's a girl that lives in an HOA down south, like this area, but the southern part. And she has chickens. And the neighbor doesn't like the chickens. And I think just doesn't like this neighbor in general, but
sure.
And it is what it is. So she calls and calls the city and, what are they doing? Then she lets her kid go over and jump on this neighbor's trampoline while they're not home and gets attacked by a chicken.
Oh, wow.
And then wants to press charges against the parents
homeowner.
of the chicken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, when you're on camera coming over into our yard when we're not home, trespassing. Yeah, like, let's see who actually gets charged in this whole thing. But it's like, it's a big to-do. And the people are like, we're just going to fucking sell our chickens because we can't do anything else.
I'm going to have to beep that one.
Yeah. And so, anyway, it was like this whole to-do. Well, then she started making fake accounts, the neighbor, and commenting on this thread.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I was like, people, there's a Dayton Mediation Center that would be a perfect opportunity for this situation where it brings both neighbors in and does conflict resolution. And the majority of the time, they're pretty successful at it. And if you live in the city of Dayton, it's free to any homeowners and residents. And then if you are not in the city, it's like a minimal fee. But yeah, there's always that option too, just to plug that in.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it is difficult. And once it gets past a point, somebody's going to stand on principle. It's going to get heated. It's going to become a battle. It's going to be a battle of wills, right? But ultimately, like, I don't want to be charged with a fine, and I don't want to be feeling like my kid can't keep his work vehicle there, and, so we're doing the accommodations. But some of the things can be very, very nitpicky. And again, I think it comes down to that's when you need to assert your voice in a positive way and make sure that you understand what the rules are, that if you're following and working through and you get that pushback, that person becomes, and it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to talk with somebody else, because if you and I are not able to resolve this, which should be possible, then we need to get somebody else involved in it. And like you said, if a mediation service is something that's available, that's helpful, because I don't see that these problems are going to go away. I see, especially once somebody feels like I'm paying all this money and doing what I need to do to live, and I'm focusing on what I need to do to survive, right? The last thing I want is somebody bringing me more issues that I have to deal with, especially over something that really ultimately could be petty. We're not talking about painting your house this horrendous neon color, right? We're talking about typical things that somebody wouldn't think twice about being able to do. Put my garbage cans out early, pull them in late, just work schedule, right? I'm not going to do that when it's pouring rain, by the way.
Yeah.
So I may set it out early before the rain comes, and if I get in trouble for that, I'll see you where I need to see you, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think people get to a point where I'm going to do what's reasonable, but as soon as you become unreasonable, then we're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
But HOAs, fun stuff, not going away.
Right. And I feel like, back to, to the start of this conversation, if you just are informed, it would resolve the majority of those issues.
Yep. And that's our tip today, is to make sure that you are asking the questions, not necessarily just of the HOA, because people may tell you what they think you want to hear, but talking with the neighbors and actually reading the documents. Take the time to read those documents, because that's really an important thing that could affect your life.
Yep. And if you are selling a home, put those documents
in the listing.
Yes, in the listing, so that people can just have them from the jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.